Hi, this is Sweet June coming back at you. I'm going to do the long awaited book review of Toxic Men by Lillian Glass. This, ladies, is a good read. I initially borrowed it from the library, but I had to get on Amazon and get a copy for myself. And I am going to keep it on my nightstand right along with my Terry McMillan book. I'm going to keep this on my nightstand. I recommend that every woman in the world, not just in the United States, but every woman in the world needs to read this book. This book is a good read, and I'm going to tell you why. It says Toxic Men, 10 Ways to Identify, Deal with, and Heal from the Men Who Make Your Life Miserable. Oh my God. Um, this lady, Lillian Glass, she's got a PhD. She did an excellent job writing this book. She really breaks down. She tells you how to even. She talks about goes into really great detail about talking about the body language, reading men's body language, and she breaks that down and she tells you, what gestures to look for, what expressions to look for, look in their eyes, how they stand in. I mean, she really breaks it down, and she even teaches women how to read the body language, and I mean, she really goes into great detail in this book, and I mean, and it tells you the first chapter. She tells you everything that you need to know. She educates you on everything that you need to know about toxic men, and um, I don't even know where to start. I mean, she's got so many great points in this book. I don't want to tell you, uh, I'm trying to sum the book up, um, but I don't want to give you too much because, but it doesn't matter because this is a keeper. This book is the keeper. Um, if I had had this book like 20 years ago, man, I probably could have avoided a lot of situations. I'm telling you, I could have avoided a lot of things. I'm telling you, if I had this book 20 years ago. But it tells you, it tells women, um, it educates you because a lot of times when we're dating men or when women are dating men, you meet a guy, and I know in the past, even when I was reading this book and reading off, like when she was reading off some of the characteristics and some of the things to look for, um, and naming off the different things that these toxic men, these qualities that these toxic men have. Um, if I didn't know, there was men that I dealt with in my past that I didn't know, and I had no idea that, reading what she was saying, I had no idea that these men were even exhibiting these qualities, because particularly when you're young, there's a whole lot of stuff you don't know, um, and I was dealing with certain characteristics in men that I dated or was in relationship with that I didn't even realize was even toxic at the time. I just didn't realize it was toxic. And this reading the different things characteristics that she was naming off in this book, just kind of made my mind go back to, wow, man, and it's deep because you thinking, wow, I mean, because when you going through it, when you're young and you going through it, you have no idea that this man is exhibiting toxic characteristics. And she breaks down what's a narcissistic man, and um, when I was younger, I didn't even know what that word meant. I had no idea what it meant, let alone to be able to identify it in a man. So I just with as reading go while I'm reading through this book, I'm just looking back at my past, and I'm like, wow. And when I was in relationships and stuff like that, and I'm like, wow, I wish I had a knew that back then. But it's really, she talks about the different qualities and the different characteristics. Um, she breaks down the different characteristics. Um, I just don't know where to begin. Um, she talks about the sneaky, passive aggressive, silent but deadly erupting volcano, and she tells you about the characteristics under that category, the things to look for under that category. She talks about facial expressions. She educates you on how to read their facial expressions and things like that, their body language, their voice, even down to their voice, and educates you and tells you how to read their voice and everything. I mean, this book is just so informative. Um, this one, she says, is the arrogant, self-righteous know-it-all, and it tells you what to look for with that, with a guy that has that characteristic. And I mean, it just in each one that she names off, it tells you, she educates you, and she tells you the body language of it, their voice, and how to recognize. It's this the seductive, manipulative, cheating liar. And on each one of these, she tells you the how to look at their speech patterns, the body language on each one that she names off. The angry, bully, and control freak. You know, and it goes on and on and on. Each one of these that she each one of these characteristics that she names off, she tells you the speech patterns, the voice patterns, the body language. I mean, and it's just so educational. It's just really informative how she just breaks things down and everything in this book. And um, the wishy-washy spineless wimp. It tells you everything that she names off, every characteristic that she names off in here. She tells you how to look, what to look for in that specific characteristic that she's talking about. And I'm telling you, ladies, this book is a good read. I mean, I recommend that every woman in the world get this book. I think that by reading this book, it can save a lot of women's lives. This book can actually save a lot of lives by reading this book. Because like I said, a lot of times, particularly when, like I said, when women are young, particularly when you're in your 20s and even in your 30s, men could be exhibiting a lot of these qualities, but if you don't know what to look for, it could go right over your head. And if you sometimes when you have feelings for a guy, when you have feelings for a man, I know that I've been guilty of this myself. That old term that they say love is blind. Well, that term stands true because a lot of times when you have feelings for a man, you have a tendency to, if he's exhibiting some bad characteristics, you have a tendency to overlook stuff, to not pay no attention. You know, he could be exhibiting a lot of qualities that she has in this book. But if you're in love and you're really infatuated with the man, or you in love with the man, you got deep feelings for the man, you'll overlook it. You'll overlook it. I know I've been guilty of that in my past as well. You overlook it, you won't see it. Or when you're young, you just simply won't even know what to look for. I mean, there were some things that I would notice. I know that with one of my exes, it was some things that I did notice, that I didn't know about him that wasn't right, but I just didn't know exactly what it was, and I couldn't exactly put my finger on it, but I knew that it wasn't right. But then some of the characteristics that he was exhibiting, I didn't even know that it was even toxic. You know what I mean? But then some of the things I was like, I knew something was wrong and I knew something wasn't right, but I just couldn't put my finger on it because I'm only in my 20s, and when you're only in your 20s, you don't really know a whole lot. But then when you got feelings for a guy, you're dating a guy, and every woman, if you're dating someone or you're in a serious relationship with someone, you would like 9 times out of 10, you want that relationship to lead to marriage, and you have the tendency to focus on the good characteristics. You have the tendency to focus on the good things, and then the bad characteristics, you either don't identify them or you overlook them, or you see them and you overlook them. Because like when I was in my relationship with one of my exes, I did see some things. I see some things throughout the whole relationship, but I overlooked it. You know, I overlooked it, and so basically, she's telling women in this book that if you see these characteristics in these men, you don't walk away from them. You run, because you gonna have problems. You're gonna be miserable. And a lot of these characteristics lead to eventually the man becoming violent. This book can save a lot of lives. And she has a list in here. Now, I'm gonna name off all these characteristics. These the list of negative descriptions of a toxic man. I'm gonna name off these descriptions. Now, mind you, some of these I don't really know what they mean. I have to actually look them up myself. um, but I'm gonna name them off for you just to give you kind of an idea of some of the things that she's talking about in this book. She also has a list in here about the positive descriptions too, but that's towards the back of the book. But this is a list of negative descriptions of a toxic man. Now it's quite of a list, so bear with me. Okay, want to hear it? Here it go. Abusive, acrimonious, addictive personality, adversarial, aggressive, alcoholic, aloof, immoral, anal retentive, angry, annoying, anxious, apathetic, argumentative, arrogant, attacking, backstabbing, bad-mouthing, belittling, betrays confidence, bickering, blaming, boring, bossy, brash, brown-nosing, bulldozing, bullshit, chatterbox, cheating, cheat, canvassing, clinging, cold, commit-phobic, competitive, complaining, condescending, confrontational, conniving, contradicting, controlling, cowardly, crass, critical, cruel, defeatist, defiant, demanding, denying, depressed, desperate, difficult, dirty, dishonest, disloyal, disrespectful, distant, dogmatic, double crossing, dull, dumb, duplicitous, easily influenced, egg headed, e- ego, e- egomaniac, maniacal, egotistical, emotionalist, empty, egomaniac, evasive, evil, exhausting, extortionist, fake, fanatical, fastidious, fault finding, fearful, flamboyant, follower, forceful, foul-mouthed, fragile, frightened, frightening, gossipy, grabby, gross, guilt-ridden, gullible, gutless, gruff, harsh, hasty, hateful, helpless, holier than thou, hot and cold, hot-tempered, hurtful, hyper, ignorant, immature, impotent, indecisive, indifferent, indirect, indiscreet, inexpressive, insane, insecure, insensitive, intense, interfering, intimidating, invasive, irrational, irresponsible, irritable, irritating, jealous, judgmental, know it all, lackadaisical, lackluster, lawless, lazy, lecherous, lethargic, lifeless, limited, loner, loser, loud, lying, macrame, macho, maniacal, manipulative, misogynistic, mean spirit, meddling, mercurial, messy, meticulous, miserly, moralizing, morose, mysterious, narcissistic, nasty, neat freak, negative, nerdy, nervous, neurotic, nitpicking, no boundaries, non confrontational, non risk taking, nosy, not serious, obnoxious, obsessive, obsessive compulsive, obstinate, old fashioned, opinionated, ostentatious, ostentatious, overeating, overly confiding, overly neat, overly talkative, paranoid, passive aggressive, perfectionist, petty, phony, pontificating, possessive, precise, pretentious, promiscuous, pro, proto, protoactive, provoactive, prudish, pushy, questioning, quiet, raunchy, rebellious, repressed, ridiculing, rigid, rough, sadistic, sarcastic, secretive, seductive, self absorbed, self depreciating, self destructive, self important, selfish, self righteous, sexless, shady, shallow, shameless, sharp tongued, sheepish, skeptical, slacker, slick, slimy, sloppy, slovenly, slow, smarmy, sneaky, snobby, snotty, socially inept, spineless, stick in the mud, stingy, strict, stubborn, stupid, submissive, superficial, suspicious, tenacious, testy, thick-headed, threatened, timid, troublemaking, turncoat, two-faced, type A personality, unapologetic, unappreciative, unaware of others, uncaring, unclean, uncommunicative, underestimates others, underhanded, unemotional, unev- un- unevolved, unfriendly, unimaginative, unkempt, unmanly, unpredictable, unrealistic, unreasonable, unscrupulous, unstable, uptight, user, malicious, vapid, venomous, victim mentality, violence, volatile, vulgar, weak, whiny, wimpy, wishy-washy, withholding, worrisome, yellow yellow-bellied, and zealot. Those are all the words. These are a list of negative descriptions of toxic men. So some of these in here that I wasn't quite sure of. I have to actually look them up because I didn't quite know what they meant. So some of these I gotta actually Google them and to see what they mean. See, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you could be dating a man or even be married to a man that's exhibiting some of these qualities that I named off on this list, and you don't have no idea that's even a toxic quality. So that's what I'm saying. This book is really is she's is really educational. I mean, she's letting us know these are the qualities that are toxic. And some of these things I read in here, I'm like, really? That's toxic? It's like you don't realize it. It's like they can be exhibiting some of those qualities and you don't even realize it. You don't even know that it's even toxic. And so that's what she's trying to educate women in this book, and she's trying to educate women and let women know that yes, some of these things are toxic. You know, that way when you get a man or when you're around a man that is exhibiting some of this stuff, then you know. When she said egg-headed, she got in here egg-headed. I didn't That's funny, egg-headed. But yeah, I mean, some of these words, evil, that's obvious. Dirty, that's obvious. But some of these things are, some of these terms, they're not so obvious. They're not so obvious things to really notice. That they're easy to overlook, or you don't even realize that they're even being toxic. And so, chatterbox. See, that's something that could probably go right over your head, unless you just really, unless it's really really irritating you about that man, you would just overlook it. But that's a toxic characteristic. And so even me, I was reading some of this stuff and I was like, really? Really? That's toxic? Not even realizing that those some of these things is toxic. And and oh, and a good point that she made in the book, that is funny because in the very beginning of the book, she says that, it says, if you think of a man who does one or more of these things is a toxic man to you. Besides a family member, a spouse, a boyfriend, a lover, a toxic man can be any male in your personal life, social life, or professional or work life. He can even be a man who is of service to you, such as a doctor, dentist, attorney, or CPA, or anyone with whom you do business or interact. A man who is toxic to you may not be toxic to another woman. Okay? So I thought that was interesting too, how, because when we think of toxic men, we have the tendency to think of in terms of a relationship. But what she's basically, and I thought that was interesting because she's basically pointing out that no, a toxic man can be any man in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be your husband or your boyfriend. It can be any man that's in your life. And I thought that was really, really uh, good. I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was a good thing that she pointed that out, because you could be dealing with a toxic man that serves in another capacity in your life, and you can easily overlook that too. Particularly if it's a doctor. You're like, okay, that doctor could be toxic, honey. He could be toxic. And I was reading, it's interesting because I was reading out some of these qualities. I was reading out some of the qualities that she had in here, some of the things that she had, and then listening to that, any man can be toxic. And I was like, ooh. I think my son had a couple of them qualities on there. I said, ooh, my son is toxic. My son had a couple of the qualities on there that I read. I'm like, ooh, my son is toxic. I told my son, I joked with him. I said, you toxic. So I just thought that was really interesting how she brought that out. And because a lot of times, if you dealing with, but it's interesting. She didn't say son on here. She said spouse. She said spouse, a boyfriend, or a lover, or um, he could be a family member instead of family member. But she didn't say son, specifically say son. So, but I just thought that was really interesting how she made the point that a toxic man can be any man in your life. It doesn't have to necessarily be your spouse or your boyfriend. It can be any man, any male that's in your life, whether it be your son, your father, your brother, or somebody like that. If they're exhibiting these qualities to you, if they're your brother and they're exhibiting any of these qualities that she have in this book, well, they toxic, honey. They is toxic. So you got to cut, even if it's family. You got to either have a sit down, or and telling you that this is not acceptable. You can't be treating me and talking to me like this, or you got to just cut them loose. Even if it's a family member, you got to cut them loose, pray for them, and keep it moving. you know. So I just thought that was really powerful how she How she, because it's a lot of times women go to the doctor and they get sexually abused by the doctor. And then there were signs that they could have looked for that was leading up to that, but it probably went over their head because it was a doctor. You know what I'm saying? He could have been saying some inappropriate stuff and all this kind of stuff that was leading up to the abuse. But you know, it probably went over her head because of the simple fact that it was a doctor. You know what I mean? So she says it could be any man that's in your life. So there, no man has the right to disrespect you as a woman. There is no man on this earth, makes no difference who he is. He has no right to disrespect you. And us women, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to know our worth. We have to know our worth enough to know that we deserve to be treated with respect. We deserve to be talked to with respect. We don't deserve to be disrespected. So it all starts with us. We have to know our worth. And we have to know that we deserve to be treated with respect by all men in our life. All men are in our life. Not just our husband or our boyfriend, but all men in our life. We deserve to be treated with respect. Particularly if it's a boss. Now, if it's a boss, that's a little bit more complicated. I mean, I've had mostly female supervisors, and you know that has its issues too. But if you have a male supervisor and they're saying certain things, or they're giving off sexual innuendos, saying stuff they ain't got no business saying to you, that's not professional. They're supposed to be keeping it strictly professional. And if they're getting personal, saying things to you that's inappropriate, making little snide remarks, sexist um, remarks, misogynistic remarks, and things like that. Because sometimes men do those things, and a lot of times it goes over the woman's head because she wants to keep her job. You know, that's a way more complicated situation on the job, because a lot of times the woman wants to keep her job. If she's dealing with and she talks about that too. She talks about that too. She talks about in a chapter. She talks about if a woman giving women pointers on what to do if they're dealing with a toxic male boss, because um, it's very complicated, because sometimes women will put up with a lot of stuff in order to keep their job. You know, they'll put up with all kinds of sexual harassment and things like that from a male boss just to keep a job. Now, in my experiences, I didn't have very many male supervisors, but the ones that I had, I liked them. I mean, I actually prefer them over the females, you know, because they're more neutral and less emotional. Females tend to be more emotional. In the males, I find in my experience, now that's my experience, the males had a tendency to be more neutral and more fair, and less emotional, not so emotional. Females are too emotional, particularly when it comes to the workplace. You know, they be in their emotions sometimes, and then it could affect their judgment, you know, on how they treat their employees. But that's another whole other video. But if a woman is dealing with a male supervisor that's toxic, she might put up with it. Well, what she's telling women in this book is some of the things that she can do and to get out of that situation. You know, you can contact the labor board, contact the lawyer. Ladies, you don't have to put up with it. If you have a toxic male boss, and he's talking to you, he's making sexual innuendos, he's disrespecting you, or whatever, you don't have to put up with it. Don't think that you have to put up with it to keep your job, because go over his head, contact the labor board, or do something. Contact the lawyer. But there's things that you can do, and there's steps that you can take. And make sure you always document. Make sure you always document. Record them if you have to. If you know you go in there and he talking crazy, record him. If you got to record him, record him. You know, get it on record, document it. You know, date things. You know, write things down and date things and document and document and document and document. Record them if you have to. And so, but we have to know our worth. And there's no amount of money that's more important than our peace of mind and you know, because at the end of the day, Jehovah God's gonna make a way for us. He gonna make a way for us to get another job. I mean, there's times I've had to walk away from jobs, and he always made a way. He always opened another door for me, and he made another way for me to get another job. So he will. God will open up another door for you. But don't never feel like, ladies, don't never feel like you got to put up with sexual harassment from a boss, a male boss, a toxic male boss that's giving you sexual harassment. Don't never feel like you have to put up with that just to keep your job, because you don't have to put up with it. You have the right to work at a place and not be subject to a hostile work environment, because that's what he's subjecting you to, and that is against the law. They cannot subject you to a hostile work environment, and they can be sued for that. So we just have to know our rights. We just, whether it's a co-worker or your boss, it don't make no difference who it is on the job. If they talking to you crazy, they're not respecting you and all this kind of stuff. There's things that you can do, and it's actually the company's responsibility to nip that in the bud. See, I learned my rights over. I had to learn my rights over the years. It is the company's responsibility to nip it in the bud. Anyone that's working for that company that's creating that's called a hostile work environment for you, that is falls back on the company. It is their responsibility to make sure that that's nipped in the bud. Or you can come after them. You can come after the company and sue the company and take legal action against that company, because that's their responsibility to ensure that their employees is not working in a hostile work environment. That's just their responsibility as an employer. I had a particular incident when I worked at this assisted living, and this I had a coworker that I had two coworkers, and one coworker was harassing the other one, and she just kept harassing her. She just literally just kept harassing her. Just kept harassing her. Well, she did. She had harassed me a little bit too, but this one she just did not like, or was angry with her for some reason. And I personally think the woman was bipolar, but she just kept. Well, you know what the heck? I'm not a therapist, but she just kept needling her. She just kept harassing her and harassing her and harassing her, and she was stressing her out, and she was making her sick. And then on top of that, the director of nursing was on her back too. And so, and then they wasn't. The problem is that the company wasn't doing anything about it. She kept complaining. She kept complaining. She kept telling them, and they wasn't doing anything about it. So finally, and they knew that this woman was toxic. As a matter of fact, she has another book out. It's called Toxic People. I'm gonna read that one. I'm gonna do a book review on that one. And this woman was a toxic person. She was literally a toxic person, and and she had a serious anger problem. I think she had some bipolar things going on, and she just kept needling and harassing um, this this other coworker of mine, which she happens to be a friend of mine as well. And she kept needling her, harassing her, and I told her, I said, you gotta, I told her to go to the owner, but they just wasn't doing nothing about it. So she finally, because she was causing her so much stress and anxiety. So she finally broke down and called a lawyer and talked to a lawyer, consulted a lawyer about it. And so when the company found out that she was actually talking to a lawyer, then they got rid of the woman. Then they finally got rid of her. But they wouldn't do nothing about her, and she kept going off. She was doing all kind of stuff. Me and her got into it a couple times, and she was just really, really a toxic person. And she just kept doing things and just kept harassing my coworker, my friend. She just kept harassing her. And then the company wouldn't do nothing about it. So like I said, she finally started talking to a lawyer, and then they nipped it in the bud, and they finally got rid of her. But it took them to that point. That it shouldn't have took them for her to have to go talk to a lawyer for them to get rid of her. I know why that is, but I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, but if a woman, I don't want to get off subject, but a woman is dealing with, if you're dealing with a male, any male that's in your life that's toxic, she tells you, she educates you on it. And you got to, and you could put your foot down, ladies, and tell them, I ain't got to put up with that. You don't talk to me like that, and I don't have to put up with it. And you don't have to deal with them, even if it's a family member. You don't have to put up with that. You don't have to put up with it, ladies. We don't have to put up with it. And so that's what she's saying basically in this book. And I'm telling you, and she even tells you at the end of the book, if you're in an abusive relationship, she gives you tips and pointers on what to do if you leave the relationship. And so I'm this lady, oh, her pictures. I thought her picture was in the back. This lady, man, Lillian Glass, that's her name. Ladies, this is a must read. I recommend that every woman in the world read this book. I got my copy from the library, but I broke down and ordered me a copy off of Amazon. I got this copy for a little over $6. It's a used copy because you get a brand new copy, but you can also order a used copy. And it was in excellent condition. There's no writing in it, and there's also a section in here that yeah, this book was a keeper. This book was a keeper. There's a section in it. It's Dr. Glass, if you can see that. Dr. Glass, getting to know yourself. It's a little quiz. When I had the library copy, I was gonna go print off some copies and then take the test. But now that I have my own copy, I can fill this out. And it's like a little test. She asks you different questions. And some of these questions I didn't even know how to answer them. It's like it says it's getting to know me survey. So you fill out the survey and you kind of learn something about yourself by filling out the survey. So I'm going to break down and fill that out. That's going to be interesting filling that out. And so this asks you different questions. I'm most confident when, I'm hurt by, what makes me laugh, I'm frightened about, I'm cautious about, I'm jealous of, I'm shocked by. Physically I am, physically I'd rather be, I would love to, what makes me laugh is, what makes me cry is. And some of these I had a hard time, believe it or not, I had a hard time answering them. I can scream when, my biggest pet peeve is, what embarrasses me is, I'm suspicious of, I'm exhausted by, and it's like a getting to know yourself quiz. Uh, so yeah, I'm gonna take that quiz and learn a little something about myself. So and it tells you the qualities of a non-toxic. These are all the qualities that she has in here of a non-toxic man. Because after I read the first list, I was like, okay, is there any man out there that's not exhibiting any of these qualities? Is it any hope of finding a man out there that's not exhibiting all of these qualities? And so I was relieved to find this list in the back. List of positive descriptions of non-toxic men. So, uh, yeah, but yeah, I'm in all of this book. I mean, I'm in all of this book. Um, Ladies, this is a good read. It says top 10 reasons why women stay with toxic men. The top 10 reasons why women stay with toxic men is your region forbids it. Your cultural background frowns on you leaving. You feel you should stay for the sake of the kids. You are financially dependent on him. You're concerned what friends and family will think if you leave. You believe that your toxic man needs you and can't be without you. You're feeling vulnerable and insecure. You're afraid that no one else will want you. You feel a sense of hopeless resignation that it's your fate to stay in this relationship. You have a fear of the unknown if you leave him and must start your own life over. So those are some of the reasons why women stay with toxic men. And those reasons are very real for a lot of women. They're very real for a lot of women. Some women, they're very financially dependent on a man. And um, of course, if I ever get into a relationship, no man can really hang that over my head because doesn't matter how much money he can't hang that over my head because I know how to survive on my own. Even if I got to struggle, I still know how to survive. So there's no man that can really hang that over my head because I've been doing it all this time without a man. So okay, a man can't go there with me. He just simply can't go there with me. And so, but these are very, very, very valid reasons why women stay in some of these relationships. And some men, they put you in a position to get really, really financially dependent on them to the point to where so you won't leave them. If some of these men are crafty, they're crafty. They'll get you. Some men will get you in that position to where, well, yeah, she's not gonna leave me. But a man can't hang that over my head. And it is clear. You got to make it clear to that man, and make it very clear to a man that hey, I know how to survive on my own now. Okay, so don't go there if I have to. And believe it or not, and sometimes it's religious reasons. Women might be apprehensive of leaving for religious reasons and stuff. But, and that's very real too, because particularly if you're a Christian, you want to be obedient to the Bible, but at the same time, you don't want to be putting up with a man going upside your head and beating on you. I mean, come on, how long can you put up with that? Cussing you out and come on, stressing you out and stuff. How long can you put up with that? You know? So, but these reasons are very real um, that a lot of reasons why a lot of women stay in these relationships. And some women are just scared, they're scared to start over. And some women do stay for the kids. Some women don't want to be single moms. They don't want to be single moms, so, want to raise kids on their own. That's a very valid reason. I mean, but I say you'd rather be a single mom than to put up with being abused physically, mentally, emotionally. You know what I mean? And you don't want to keep exposing your children to that. If you have children, you don't want to keep exposing your kids to that. You got to get them out of that environment. So, I mean, this is a good read, ladies. This book is highly recommended. I don't want to give away the whole book, but go out and buy this book. Get it from the library, read it at first. But I guarantee you, once you read it, you're going to want to buy it. Because I can say I get a lot of books from the library and I don't go out and buy it. But this one, I said I got to get on Amazon and order this thing and like I said, I got this copy. They got different price ranges on here. This is a used copy, and I got it for a little over $6. And it's an excellent. It was a little dirt on the cover. I cleaned it off. Excellent condition. No writing or anything in it. So yeah. So it's not that expensive. So I recommend it. I highly recommend it, and I'm gonna keep it on my nightstand. And so when you meet somebody, ladies, you can refer back to this book and look in this book. You look and say, ooh, you know what I mean? Girl, get it, ladies. It can save your life. Get this book. If you have a loved one, a sister, or a friend, that's if you know of anybody in your family or friend that's in a toxic relationship with a man, buy the book for her, buy it for her, and give it to her. Let her read it. This book may save her life. It may save her life. Okay, it's that deep. It could save a lot of women's lives. So if you know somebody, a sister, cousin, a friend that's in a toxic relationship with a man, buy her this book. It could save her life. So I highly recommend this. So this book review is very important for me to do. Okay, I gotta wrap this thing up. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Sound off in the comments section. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share my videos. You should share my videos. That's going to help my channel grow. And make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you will be notified every time I do a video. Help your girl out. Help your girl grow. I'm trying to get up there so I can start monetizing my videos again. So I need you guys to help me out on that. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I got some good things coming up for my channel. So I got some good things coming up, guys. I got some good things in store, good things coming up for the channel. So like I said, if you stick with me, I'll stick with you. Okay. Um, the next video I'm going to do is probably going to be the online dating tips video. So I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to do that, but that one will be coming up. And I got a video that I'm going to do about single moms, talking about single moms. The uh, the uh, the reasons why, might not title that, but the reasons why, um, the detrimental things of being a single mom. The reasons why black women, reasons why being a single mother is detrimental for black women. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to be doing that video as well. So those are two videos that I got coming up that I'm going to be doing. Okay, so stay tuned. All right, I see you guys later. Have a blessed evening. Peace and love. This is Sweet Jen.